All right, everyone. It's the famous Dave Danto. Dave, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me. Always a pleasure to be with you.
It's always interesting because the two of us have the busiest background on the planet. Like basically, if you're watching the two of us right now, you can't get a noisier, more distracting background than what the both of us have. So you're watching something that's probably driving you crazy if you've got sensory deprivation issues, that's for sure. And we apologize, but I actually wanted I'm gonna ask you about in depth in just a second from Microsoft, but I want to first bring you on to talk to you about your latest article about the what you call the invisible wow behind the television screen. Hey Dave, what do you think? You write this article, um, you know, talking about, kind of give us a synopsis for those that haven't had a chance to read it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting the impetus behind me writing this one. I'll show you a still that I know you and I were both involved in when we were at Infocom. I think this one was 2015. That was the only year that was there. But do you remember the big wow? If you could show that
Yeah.
that we were all taking pictures behind it and smiling through the wow. And
Yep.
and I always thought that honestly, I thought that kind of steered us in the wrong direction. It kind of told everybody in the industry, you're just really special. Keep doing what you're doing, which was probably the worst advice we could give. And now, 10 years later, a lot of those companies that thought they were special are selling for pennies on the dollar to the big companies that are growing. So, at the time we were talking about the wow, we were talking about, look at the amazing pictures we can make, and look at
Yeah.
the fabulous sound, and look at this. And it dawned on me that that's really not it. I go to my living room in my house, and my wife is sitting there watching TV, but she's got a game on her phone, and she's got something else going on, and we all watch content that way. I'm sure the people that are watching this aren't staring at the screen with bated breath. They're probably doing email, they're probably doing other things. So the wow is no longer the technology, it's no longer the device. The wow is the experience that we can bring to this. Bring it all together. What is the audio and the video and the second screen and the interactivity and the planning that brings it together? I just got back from the Sphere in Las Vegas. The
Uh,
first couple of days that they were doing the Wizard of Oz. I think I saw it on the fourth day, and it's better than the Postcards movie that they had, but it's still not. It's not enough to blow smoke in my face and say, "Wow, look, there was smoke." It's got to work out. The big applause comes during the tornado, where they've actually combined all the sensory pieces to make people think they're in a tornado, including when the house falls, the seats go bump. So that's what we need to be working on. We need to be working on, like what the XTG group is doing on with AVISPL, and so what's the person's experience as they're walking in. It's not just is the micro LED small enough, and are the pixels great, and are they bright enough. We need to be thinking about creating content across the board, even for people that are getting it on their phone. So that's kind of what the article is about. I go over some key points with you, but that was the impetus behind it, that we all really kind of need to look at this differently.
Yeah, well, I think you did a great job as a synopsis. I would argue that all that wow stuff is at Infocom. As a show like Infocom, I think what you're saying is we now need to do a better job putting it all together, and not just when a customer calls and says we need to upgrade our projector, not just giving them the latest projector, but mention all the other new things that have come out since then, and make the install more immersive rather than just replacing the old projector with a new projector. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, 15 years ago, or roughly 14 years ago, when I was working for an integrator, I used to tell all the salespeople that if somebody called asking to buy 2 flat panels, the answer should be no, I'm not selling those to you. Why do you need them? Because was it for an RF distribution system, or was it for digital signage, or was it for a conference room? Because if you sell them what they're asking for, and they're only asking for a faster horse, people are going to be disappointed. So we do need to look at that experience. We need to look at how our job evolves from people who understand how to connect things to people who understand how to create experiences. And I don't think that's a transition that most in the industry have made yet. Some have, but that's what I was kind of pointing out. Watching and listening isn't enough. I mean, if you're going to see a concert, listening is enough. Watching the background is enough. But the rest of it, what's the person's experience walking into the conference room? What's the person's experience while they're waiting in line to ride the ride? Not everybody gets that.
I do think about that often when I go to Disney, as an example, about how, when I'm standing in line to ride a ride, about how they're telling a story while I'm standing in line and making it interesting, versus when I go to Universal or even here locally, Carowinds, it's basically pipe and you're holding on to pipe as you go through a line. You're not really getting any kind of experience out of it.
Exactly.
And
You can make the wait be the experience along with the ride.
Yeah.
In very creative ways. Disney's one of the best that does it. And as you point out, some of the other ones. I remember when MGM opened, they used to have a theme park behind it in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
and
I remember that
the
too.
worst experience of waiting. So again, you have to have skills in understanding what are people's experiences. It comes down to phones as well. We're talking about AI agents on telephone lines. That was a very popular thing that people in the CX and the UCAS space. And you know what? I don't want to wait online for a minute and then have to talk to a robot where the robot hasn't even been taught what checkout means at a hotel.
Yeah.
It's what is my experience of that? And it's not enough that you've been able to get rid of people or use less operators. Am I going to want to call back? Am I going to want to go to you, or am I going to go to a competitor? That's the thing that we really need to be looking at. As we're AV experts, AV's there. It's a given. It's table stakes. Now, how do we get the experience for boaters and for healthcare and for patient care and for amusement parks? And how we have to learn that and be able to talk fluently about it.
Yeah, and I agree with you on this, and I think that basically, if an integrator will look at themselves as a technical, or maybe even in your case, experiential consultant, or stop worrying about the product so much and worry about creating, solving the problem that they have, and then making it fun to solve, and experiential, using your word, then we have it. I think that putting all the stuff together and not just piecemealing it. And I think some integrators are. I mean, obviously you mentioned AVI SPL and XTG and what they're doing specifically there. CTI, with the fact that they have both an integration group and a broadcast group, and they've combined the two together to do some really cool things. I think digital signage is a good indicator. Like those brands, those companies that have gone into digital signage have just naturally become more experiential than those that have focused mostly on classrooms and boardrooms and meeting rooms. I think that sort of digital signage is sort of eye-opening that way, because you have to think about, okay, someone's going to walk by this. How do I grab their attention? It's not just the fact that you're replacing a paper sign.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is the people and the organizations that have made this transition well realize that everyone is a content creator. Just because AV isn't broadcast doesn't mean it's not a content creator. You're going to walk into one of those rooms with one of those cameras. You may be live on CNBC. I take out my phone, and I take a picture and I put it up, and it becomes my webcast next week. So content's coming from everywhere. How do we support that content to make it be really good experiences?
Yeah. And that friction that exists, we have to remove. So I want to switch gears and ask you about MDEP, because there's a lot of stuff coming over the next week. I think it's kind of underhyped. And this is an opportunity for you to kind of talk about the impact of that, because it's interesting. If you go back 3 years ago, Zoom was dominating, and Teams was sort of like, hey, we got an idea here. They really did innovate in a unique way and sort of captured the attention of the integration community, such that our industry only pushes Teams. They rarely push Zoom installs. So tell me about it. Go ahead.
No, that's a corollary. That's an interesting point. I'm one of the contrarians about Zoom. Zoom is making money hand over fist. Their stock market, their stock is doing great. They've become an AI company, but I'm of the opinion that that's their second wife, and they've kind of left their first wife behind. You could have become an AI company and brought along your collaboration crew, and most of them feel very dissed. So you're right, they are losing market share to Microsoft, and you can argue which is a better or worse product. I've got a couple of articles out there that say that, but it's not enough to be the best product. You also have to be the best person talking about it, not dissing your customers. So agreed. So but MDEP has had a big impact since it was launched. Was it earlier this year or late last year? Talk about, first off, for those that don't know what it is, tell them what it is, and then talk about what's going to happen here over the next week. Yeah, well, I can't say what's going to happen, but I can say keep an eye on it.
Hint at it. Yeah.
But the MDEP is short for the Microsoft Device Ecosystem Platform, and it is Microsoft's attempt to take what was a Wild West situation with Android AOSP, where some people did different things than others, and it was hard to get updates done, and and now unify it so that almost all of the traditional unified communications manufacturers and a whole bunch of other ancillary manufacturers are now using that platform for Microsoft and not innovating on the platform, they're innovating around the platform. Yeah. As I said, most companies have gone on board. There are 4 main companies that have not adopted MDEP at this point, and they're the ones that came out earliest with their own version of Android. So they were the market leaders at the time. What I can say based on information that I've seen off the record and under NDA is over the next 7 days, we're going to see a couple of really exciting announcements that are going to kind of change the way things are going. So I can't say more about it than that, but if it's something you care about around collaboration and Microsoft Teams, I would definitely keep an eye on the news over the next 7 days.
Yeah, so come back to RavePubs. You can see that article we just talked about that Dave wrote, also the Invisible Wow. You can go to ravepubs.com. It's actually featured as the top blog on our site, and it's also trending as the #1 or #2 story on our website right now. So congratulations, Dave. And of course, Dave is a regular contributor, so you can check out all the stuff when you click on his name under the byline of any of the articles. You can see all the stuff he's written for us. Dave, I really appreciate you coming on here. Maybe we could have you back in a few weeks to talk about the MDEP announcements. And certainly we need to have you on before ISE, because I'd love to get your top 10 booths that you got to go to at ISE. So maybe we'll plan on that as well if you have some time to give us.
I'd love to do that. And as always, if anybody wants to reach out to me for any reason, you can just Google my name on there. I'm with Talking Points as an analyst and consultant. Love to chat with people. Anything I can do to help.
Yeah, just find David, Danto, and you can go to LinkedIn anytime and see him there. Dave, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have a great day, guys.